On Larry King Now, actor Paul Bettany on directing his first film, Shelter.
It's a peculiar thing. 90% of the questions that you are asked are, what color would you like the red shoes to be? And then 10% of the questions are unanswerable and terrifying.
On Captain America Civil War and what's next for Vision. What can you tell us about it?
I can tell you very little because the moment I start to talk about it, I start to see, sunlight glinting off sniper rifles.
On working with his wife, Jennifer Connelly.
So I finally, I got her on the phone and said, I'm coming over and let's get married. And that's really what happened. We had never dated.
Plus,
I'm of the opinion that you don't sign some Faustian pact with the devil when you become an actor and that your entire private life is open for everybody. And but you can make it easier on yourself by not, being at the opening of an envelope,
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. Our special guest, Paul Bettany, a diverse actor. You know him for his roles in Avengers, Age of Ultron, The Da Vinci Code, A Beautiful Mind, and Iron Man franchise. He'll be reprising his role as Vision in the highly anticipated Marvel movie Captain America Civil War, due next year. Paul recently added 2 new titles to his resume. He wrote and directed Shelter. It's about homelessness in New York City. Shelter will open in select theaters November 13th. What took you to make this move and this topic?
As different type of storytelling, I was sort of eager for a new challenge. I really wanted to give actors their jobs back. I feel that sometimes scripts get so developed that the actor has no room to move. And that's not to say that there aren't great performances in English language movies today. Of course, there are every year, but the 70s were awash with them. And films that I grew up on, like Five Easy Pieces, simply wouldn't work without Jack Nicholson being extraordinary in front of the camera. So that was the reason. And then I was thinking about what I might want to make a film about, and I thought I might want to make a film about judgment. Judgment in general, and specifically the judgment of homeless people. There were the homeless couple that lived outside my apartment, my neighbors, so to speak. And initially,
They slept there at night?
They slept, yes. There's a tiny little park in Tribeca on the corner of the West Side Highway, and they would sleep under a see-through plastic tarpaulin, and I would see them every morning on the way on the school run and try and talk to them. Very recalcitrant people, and I'm ashamed to say that eventually they became invisible to me and just sort of part of the landscape of the city in which I live. And then Hurricane Sandy happened. And in the mayhem of trying to get my family and pets into a car and head to higher ground, I didn't stop to think about where they might shelter the storm. And when we came back to our apartment, I never saw them again. So I started to write, and that's where this script came from.
Wow, hard to get the movie made?
If you're trying to make a film about a Nigerian Muslim immigrant and a homeless junkie, it's always difficult, but you're helped if you happen to have an Oscar winner in the film, and I happen to have one lying around at home. So.
Jennifer Connelly is your wife and the star of the movie?
Yes.
And who does she play?
She plays Hannah, who is actually from an affluent background, who has fallen on hard times. And,
She's homeless?
She's homeless in the film.
Did she want to do this right away?
She read it and found it very moving, and she's incredibly honest and has read other things that I've written and been brutally honest, and this one she said right away that she wanted to do it. So.
Variety said this about you. Bettany's direction maintains a tight, empathetic focus. The picture's virtues are enough to make one hope this isn't a directorial one-shot.
Oh, that's very nice.
Is it not?
No, I've been bitten by the bug.
What was it like directing your wife?
She's incredibly fastidious. She was a card-carrying member of the New York City Exchange program. They thought that she was a user, and
Really?
yeah, and she was working with outreach programs. Both of us were working with an amazing group called the Coalition for the Homeless, who are just angels, real-life angels on the streets of New York City. And one story I can tell you about her fastidiousness is we were in a filthy alley up in Harlem, and there was a scene where she's using intravenously, and we had a prop syringe that had a retractable needle, but for her it was the wrong syringe. She said, it's not the one that I would be using. And I said, well, don't worry, we'll pull the camera back, nobody will see. And she took her syringe and put it into her vein in this filthy alleyway, and I sort of looked at the crew and went, let's roll on this then, you know. So she was extraordinary.
Okay, what was directing like? It's your movie.
Yeah, it felt like an incredible privilege. I mean, prep was the one part of the process of making a film that I knew nothing about. And it was terrifying, and it seemed to consist of people telling me what I couldn't do because it cost too much money. So that was awful, and I remember the night before production, just wandering around Tribeca, hoping for a miracle that a cab would run me over or something. I could somehow get out of it, but it didn't. And the next day I walked onto set and I was surrounded by things that I know, like canvas back chairs and monitors and cameras and cables, and I felt entirely at home, and it was an extraordinary experience. It's a peculiar thing. 90% of the questions that you were asked are, what color would you like the red shoes to be? And then 10% of the questions are unanswerable and terrifying.
Does your wife have romantic scenes in the movie?
Yeah, she does.
How was that to direct?
Totally fine. You're so worried about other things.
Really? You don't even...
No, you become this monster that just wants the shot, you know. So.
Is it true you had feedback from Ron Howard and Johnny Depp?
Yes, and Darren Aronofsky, and I showed them early screenings of early cuts, and it was besides Anthony having great actors, Anthony and Mackie and Jennifer Connelly, it was my second greatest resource, was these old friends that I'd worked with who were real masters of what they do and able to...
Well, Ron directs this, Depp.
Yeah, no, he has, but he has directed. But, you know, he's got an extraordinary eye and a brilliant off-kilter understanding of story. So.
Have we had any movies about homeless?
Yes, there's one now called Time Out of Mind, which, you know, I welcome all of them. It's a huge issue in this country right now, not just in New York City, but I can speak well about New York City because I know about it. You know, homelessness has spiraled out of control in the time that I've lived there, which has been 15 years, and you can see it on the streets if your eyes are open. You know, last year in New York City, we passed 2 milestones. The first apartment sold for $100 million. Extraordinary. But 60,000 homeless people were sheltered in the municipal system every night, and 24,000 of those people tonight will be children. And all that taking place in a city home to more billionaires than any other city on earth.
Where do they sleep? In shelters?
In shelters, yeah.
Our guest is triple threat Paul Bettany.
Triple threat.
Coming up, Paul will reveal some details, hopefully, about the upcoming Captain America Civil War and why he makes movies like that. Stay with us. Paul Bettany's much-anticipated film Shelter will be in select theaters November 13th. Jennifer Connelly is its star. Is it a downer?
No, I tried to write the saddest, happiest ending that I could. I don't appreciate films that take me to a dark place and just leave me there. So no, it is appropriately sad. It's a romance. The film is a romance.
You play Vision in this year's Avengers: Age of Ultron. Do you like Marvel movies?
I had so much fun. And in fact, directing has... it's made me enjoy the myopia of acting. you know, the focus just on one thing, which and the playtime. I loved it. It was lovely and you're going from the sublime to the ridiculous. You know, you're in a filthy alley, you know, one night with your wife sticking a syringe into her arm, and then you're on the biggest sets that I've ever seen in my life. With
Who directed that?
Joss Whedon directed it, and it was a delight.
You're also now you're the voice of the computer J.A.R.V.I.S.
Yeah.
in multiple Marvel movies. And you're the first actor to play 2 roles in the same Marvel movie.
Correct. Yes, that was, they bent the rules for me.
So you set a Marvel Universe record.
I think I have, yes. And you know, and it was a double-edged sword. I loved the job before. I would turn up, you know, at the end of everything and work for 45 minutes, and they'd give me a huge bag of cash. And I would leave sort of like feeling like a thief and say, really, I can have this? And now they really want me to work for my living, so.
And now you reprise your role as Vision in Captain America's Civil War. What can you tell us about it? I
can tell you very little, because the moment I start to talk about it, I start to see, you know, sunlight glinting off sniper rifles and stuff, you know, because they've got it locked down. They've got us locked down to secrecy.
Okay.
So
I'm told this is important. I have no idea what it means.
Okay.
What does it mean that Vision can pick up Thor's hammer?
Oh. It means that he's worthy. Nobody so far in the Marvel universe in these films has been able to pick up Thor's hammer. It's just too heavy for them. But it's supposed to denote your worthiness and that you're a good man.
A lot of physicality?
Yes, the suit was, I have this huge muscle suit and prosthetics that cover most of my body except for here, and it's a lot. And by the first day's fine. The second day they have a cooling vest that goes on underneath that pumps ice cold water so that I don't.
Where did they shoot it?
We shot Captain America in Atlanta. It was hot.
A little hot, then.
It was a little hot, and. You know, you really have to start meditating on the line of thousands of actors that would like to be in your position, you know, because it gets a little isolating.
What do you make of Marvel fans? How rabid they are, and what is that?
It's like nothing.
Attachment to comic books.
Well, you know, I think about that a lot. I wonder what it is, because initially I thought it was a sort of American, a young country inventing their own mythology and Greek gods and so forth. But it's such a worldwide phenomena. I'm at a loss to explain it. But what's interesting, the fans are incredibly dedicated. I'd never seen anything like it when I went I've been to Comic-Con 5 times before I went as an Avenger, and it was bananas. And
I hated it. It drove me nuts.
It's the stuff of madness. Then they love it, and they love the franchise. And I think the reason they love the franchise is these films are made by fans. Kevin Feige is a fan. They're just continuing to do in their adult life what they did in their adolescent life. And I think the fans feel really that the universe, the Marvel universe, is safe in their hands, and they really seem to have a good batting average.
Shelter will open in select theaters November 13th. Up next, Paul reflects on A Beautiful Mind and meeting his future wife. Plus, we'll play a little game of If You Only Knew. Don't go away. We're back with Paul Bettany. Don't forget the movie Shelter. Can't wait to see it. It stars his wife, Jennifer Connelly, and it opens in select theaters November 13th. You met her, your wife, shooting A Beautiful Mind, right?
I did.
Is it true she was your childhood celebrity crush?
It's absolutely true.
You are younger than her?
Well, she was working at she was in films like Labyrinth and Once Upon a Time in America. Not a bad first film, Once Upon a Time in America.
I love that movie. Was it 4 hours?
Yes. And she was wonderful in it. And So yes, that's absolutely true. And then I met her on A Beautiful Mind, and
Was it instant? Did you?
it was pretty instant, but you know, we sort of got to. You know what happened, Larry? Is what happened was September the 11th. I was in Tuscany. I was shopping for groceries, and I saw this crowd outside this cafe, and I thought it must be a football match. And I pushed my way to the front just in time to see the second plane hit the second tower. And like so many people's lives in that moment, mine was changed forever. And I ran back to this house and I spent 2 days trying to call this woman that I sort of barely knew. And I remember very clearly thinking to myself, what are you doing? I realized I was in love, so I finally I got her on the phone and said, I'm coming over and let's get married. And that's really what happened. We had never dated.
You had never dated? No. You made that movie together?
Yeah, and about a year later,
9/11 happens.
Mm-hmm. And I was frantic with worry and think.
Well, when she answered the phone and you said this, what did she say?
She said, okay. And she already had a son, so I knew I was flying. It was very peculiar. I knew I was flying out and leaving my country. You know,
and now you're married 10 years.
Now we're married 10 years, yeah.
And we never read about you and her in the tabloids.
I'm of the opinion that you don't sign some Faustian pact with the devil when you become an actor, and that your entire private life is open for everybody. And but you can make it easier on yourself by not, you know, being at the opening of an envelope. You know, so we tend to keep it quite low key.
How about articles that say you're a scene stealer?
Well, that's very nice. That's lovely, and it's lovely to be on your show and hear them, because I literally. I made a decision about 5 years ago never to read another review of my own or anybody else's work ever again, and I've stuck to it. I'd much rather go and see the film and make my own opinions than.
Well, I don't know what scene stealers do. I do remember Jackie Gleason telling me when they were watching dailies of Hustler.
Yeah.
And he and Paul Newman were sitting. And George C. Scott was one of his first movies, was sitting behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where Gleason and Newman are talking. Mm-hmm. And George C. Scott is sitting at the bar.
Yep.
And both of them turned around, grabbed him, and said, "What the hell are you doing?"
That's great.
He was not speaking.
That's great.
Is that you?
I don't think so. No, no. I think actors are either. I think they're either driven by character or plot, and I'm very much driven by story. So, I am all about whether I'm the lead in the film or whether I'm a supporting character in the film. All about supporting the story. That's the bit of it.
You play the. Yeah.
That really interested me.
I love Russell Crowe. He's always been great with me.
Yeah, me too.
Why did he get a bad rap?
Well, I think he's really, you know, he's frank to a fault, you know, and I think we live in a, he's honest, and we live in a quite
politically correct world.
Politically correct world, and he has no time for that. And he's always been incredibly generous with me, and I know of stories that broke in the press about him where he simply couldn't possibly have been true because he was with me drinking in a bar.
We're going to play a little game of If You Only Knew. I just ask a couple questions, you throw an answer. Remember the first person you ever kissed?
Yes. Her name was Rachel. I was 5 years old.
In London?
In London, in the back of my dad's car, which was up on bricks because the tires had been stolen.
What's the secret talent you have?
I can tell what anybody, at a party, I can tell what anybody needs to drink at any given time. Cocktail-wise.
Guilty pleasure.
Zombies. I love...
oh, that's right. You're a fan of The Walking Dead.
I'm a real fan of The Walking Dead. And, in fact, the Fear the Walking Dead, I think they are more sophisticated than people know.
Would you like to play one of the scenes in The Walking Dead?
If it were the right thing, yes, I would. I would, yeah. I think it's, you know, I think it's got a really interesting thing to say about the world, and I think what it's saying, this is just my opinion, is that if you are guaranteeing your safety and the safety of your loved ones at the expense of your humanity, it's not safety at all.
What was your first job?
I fried chips in a fish and chip shop.
Can you do other accents other than American?
Yeah, I can do an array of British accents, but I don't often.
If you weren't an actor, what would you be?
Oh, I'd be a musician. I'm a guitar player. It's what I wanted to do originally, was be a guitar player.
Paul will take your questions in our final segment, and don't forget, Shelter opens November 13th. We'll be right back. We're back with Paul Bettany. Don't forget, the movie is Shelter. It stars his wife, Jennifer Connelly. It opens in select theaters November 13th and then wide, right?
Yes, and then it will be available for download and all of those new, it's a brave new world.
We're going to get into social media questions for you. Is it true, though, you had an embarrassing experience at Guy Ritchie's house?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, what happened was there was a big dinner party and lots of big names there. Ron Howard was there, his wife was there, Akiva Goldsman, the writer of A Beautiful Mind, was there, my wife was there, Lizzie Olsen was there. I mean, it was just a lot of sort of business people, and we were all having dinner, and I had elected to not wear my glasses.
Was this in New York?
This was in London, so that I had elected not to wear my glasses so that I would look young and frankly castable. And he said, go and check out the house, there's a pool downstairs. So I said, okay. So I go downstairs, the doors to the elevator open, and I step into what I think is a corridor, but it's a lap pool. And I fell into the lap pool, which had it was in a black marble room with a black cover, and I didn't have my glasses, and now I'm fighting with the cover, and I swim to the other side, and I get out, and suddenly I've realized I'm shivering, but not with cold, but with the realization that I have to go back upstairs to a dinner party. And I'm soaking wet, and I'm looking for exits. I'm thinking, can I climb out of a window? Can I ring my wife and tell her I've left her? Or how can I get out of this?
The elevator opened right into the pool?
Yeah.
Why would they have designed it?
Why wouldn't they have told me that?
Did you ask anyone why it did that?
No, I thought that a plum in these circumstances were everything. So I grabbed a toweling dressing gown and a towel and put my hair up like Marilyn Monroe and went up and came out and joined the dinner party as if I had meant to fall into a pool.
Good idea.
Thank you.
We have some social media questions for you. Craig Ellen on Twitter. What side is Vision going to be on in Captain America Civil War?
Simply not allowed to tell you that. I appreciate the question.
Why do they hold these things secret? What's the big deal?
I don't know, but you know, I was asking the same question. For 3 years, I wasn't allowed to talk about the fact that I was going to be Vision, and they knew it 3 years ago, and it's hard to argue with them because they make so much money.
At Hooked Up B tweets, why was Shelter so important for you to direct?
Oh, you know, my late father always used to say when we passed a homeless person, he would say, "There but for the grace of God go I." I'm not a religious man, but I love that sentiment, and I wonder where it went. You know, there but for the grace of God go I is an admission of how close we all are and how easily it could be us. And you know, we live in a world of increasing grey area, and yet we seem to be getting more and more entrenched in black and white positions. And I just wanted to address it and discuss it and be part of a hopefully national debate on how we treat homeless people in this country.
Red Hot Diva asks, in hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently with Shelter?
Yes. Time is everything. More time. More time. It's so expensive, time.
Zarly Quinn tweets, who's your directorial inspiration?
Oh, so many people, and for different reasons. Ron Howard, these are people that I've worked with. You know, Peter Weir is an extraordinary director. So I tried to, and Darren Aronofsky, people that, you know, I've worked with or know very well and have tried to learn as much as I can and kept my eyes open when I'm working with them.
Do you remember when you first decided I'd like to direct a film?
Oh, I think it was very early. I kept waiting for this. I thought that there was this missing secret piece of a jigsaw puzzle that would fall into place. And finally, I think it was Ron Howard just said, Paul, there isn't a secret jigsaw puzzle. You just do it. And that is the secret, is you just start.
Made you a better actor?
I think that's for other people to comment. I think so. I think it's made me much more respectful of directors. I think that I will never ask a director a difficult question at dusk ever again.
I've been in 25 movies. I always play myself. I'm in the new O.J. Simpson movie.
Okay.
For FX. And there's something I notice about directors, great ones, average ones. They all come over to you after a scene and they go, wonderful.
Yes.
Let's do it one more time.
Yes.
Why do they do that?
Because they're trying to keep your confidence up. Because if they come up and go, that was really dreadful, let's go again, you know.
So you gotta compliment them and keep going.
Yes, and also, you know, there are things to take out of each take that.
So you might use this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Great
really
pleasure.
lovely talking to you.
My pleasure. Thanks to my guest, Paul Bettany. Shelter is in theaters November 13th. And as always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. See you next time.